199. Let's get to the bonus reviews, which the first one is the Angry Birds movie, the first one from 2016, and then I will be doing Angry Birds movie 2. It is directed by Clay Caddis, Virgil Riley, stars Jason Sudeikis, Josh Gad, Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph, Bill Hader, Peter Dinklage, Sean Penn, Keegan-Michael Key, Kate McKinnon, Tony Hill. List goes on and on and on. And the synopsis is: when an island populated by happy, flightless birds is visited by mysterious green pigs, it's up to three unlikely outcasts to figure out what the pigs are up to. So I just figured there were a few different franchises that I could have covered or standalone films that were like Garfield, but this one is sort of under the radar, hasn't been talked about that much really that I could find, and I don't know what other franchises or shows that I would pair it up with, so hey, figured why not. I think there are a few interesting things to say about it for better and for worse. But backstory with Angry Birds, I've never been a mobile game guy. I know I can't keep focus, whether it's ADHD or what, I don't know. I just cannot really play a mobile game consistently. And so even though there are some that seem really fun and enjoyable, I just can't do it. I don't know why. But I was always aware of Angry Birds. I know a lot of people who did play it and people who were obsessed with it. And so was very much in the ballpark and of knowledge of all of that. Just never was with it firsthand. And when they announced the movie, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll check it out. Why not? The cast is pretty darn stacked, like pretty impressive for a movie like this. And as I said with the Garfield films, I love talking animals, so another incentive to go and watch it. And before getting into the actual review itself, and I guess it sort of relates to Garfield, but especially with something like this, where there is no story to this game, it's always interesting to me when someone can make a story out of nothing, or it shows you when there is no story and they don't take the time to actually create a story and it's just nothing. And I think a good example of what's done well is Barbie recently, where Barbie has no story, there's no plot, and they came up with a pretty interesting, relatable kind of concept. And so that's definitely one of the better recent examples. But this one, it's of course more geared towards kids, but I am fine watching a film like this. I don't care. And there doesn't need to be a huge story, but you could do whatever you want with it. It really just depends on who you give this to and who the writers are, who the directors are, and all that. And for this first film, it definitely could be a lot worse. I actually do not mind this movie. Hot take, maybe. I know some people really trash on it, but I really don't think it's that bad. There are some big issues that I'll get to, but when I saw it in the theaters, I saw this one and the second one in theaters. No shame there. I saw it. And maybe it's because I had low expectations. I don't know, but I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Probably the best thing, and it could sort of be taken for granted nowadays with studios like Pixar and Leica, things like that, but the animation, quality wise, fantastic. Like, I love the animation in this. The look of the feathers on the birds, the colors, like, it's so vibrant and really maybe at times too vibrant, but I really, really like the look of both of these films. And especially when it comes to the birds, the only design aspect, which is sadly a big part of the movie that I don't love, is the pigs. I think the pigs, despite the cool green, neon green look to them, I really find the design overall to be pretty boring and just not really interesting to look at. So I think that is a failure. And I know that they're going partly off the games, but I think they did a much better job with the birds than the pigs. So the villains, sadly, are the worst part. I think the idea of what really got me hooked at the beginning was, and it's an obvious choice, but it works, is Jason Sudeikis, who is great, having anger problems. He is an angry bird, so he has anger problems, and him exploding and not being able to control his temper and having to go to therapy and meditation, all that stuff. I think that was funny. And so the first act is, to me, where it peaks, because it was more just hanging out with the birds. There wasn't this big plot going on. It was just him dealing with his emotions. That was interesting to me. And it's just that once that goes away, the movie becomes less interesting and much more generic. I just feel like they said, all right, let's give a little boost at the beginning here, give them a little character, and then we got to get into the stuff that will keep the kids hooked, keep the parents coming and bringing their kids. And that's, I get it. It is what it is. It's not nothing offensively bad. I just wish the rest of the movie was as funny as the first act. But some specifics, as I said, Jason Sudeikis, I love him in everything. Danny McBride, really good. Maya Rudolph, like everybody is very solid except for, and I know I have the same kind of issue with Chris Pratt, but Josh Gad cannot stand. I think he is, I don't know why he keeps getting work. I think he is terrible. I just always find him to be obnoxious and really not sincere. I just find him to be very phony in really all of his roles. So, not a fan at all of him in the movie. I like the look of the bird he plays, like the very vibrant yellow. I love that. And I really like the look of Danny McBride's big black bird. That's really good. And the overall look of the island, too, like if we're talking animation, fantastic. Really good. Like the quality, the lighting, and the shadows. And I really cannot get enough of that. I just wish there was more exploration with all that, because that's what honestly, that's what is going to make me go see the third one whenever that comes out, which I think it's in development already. But besides that, some specific scenes that I enjoy to a certain degree is when they meet the eagle and he's peeing. I know some people are like grossed out by it, but actually find it kind of funny. Sorry, not sorry sort of thing. And the three main birds are just gawking at him like completely disgusted. I think that's pretty funny. Maybe not appropriate for kids, but I think for me it was funny. The homage callback to the actual game itself, where they slingshot the birds across the island when they're in the big climactic fight. I enjoyed that. I think that's fairly well done. It's not so injected in for no reason or without any kind of motivation. It's there because the story and plot makes sense, and so they did that well. And it's not too long. It's a little obnoxious sometimes, like a little too loud, too noisy, as I like to say sometimes when discussing animated films, especially kids' films. Also, the birthday party sequence is funny towards the beginning, and that whole kind of chase sequence I think is pretty good. So it's fairly accessible, like you don't have to have any knowledge of Angry Birds to get into it. Maybe it'll turn off more adults than others, but there's enough charm there for me to rewatch it every so often. And just being in that world is kind of fun for some reason, even though I don't play the game. It's just fun and kind of a comfort, I guess. And I'll be curious to see what they do with 3. I'm hoping they continue to build the world, because there's, you could do anything. So why not just go all out with the world building and characters and all that stuff? So I think that's cool and exciting. I don't know if we'll get anything that great, but we'll see. So that one is a 3 out of 5.